But let me ask you something. What's your personal opinion about the latest news on the Varginha case? Dr. Ítalo Venturelli, the neurosurgeon, he came out publicly and said that he was with the creature there. He even had a telepathic interaction with the creature and had physical contact too. He touched it, had to do some procedures there. What do you think, right? You also followed the Varginha case. So what do you think about this new testimony?
So I even brought here the first video of this gentleman, this doctor, right? That Marco Aurelio Leal gave me, and I showed it there in Arauca at the Arauca event, and I think at the one in Luminarias too. Yeah, I showed it at both events, the one in Luminarias and the one in Arauca in 2023. In 2023. Yeah, in 2023, when I was even releasing book 2, which is Secrets in Varginha, right? From this trilogy. And then I showed the video that Marco Aurelio sent me. I showed him saying there that he had only seen the tape, that he didn't have it. No. And now he came here, right, in this new episode to say that he was there in person, that whole story that most people already know. Look, Edison Boaventura, I think of it this way. It could, because it's very complicated for a doctor in the very place where he works, where he was in charge, if I remember correctly.
He has already managed 3 hospitals in Virginia. The Regional Hospital, Humanitas Hospital, and Bom Pastor Hospital, right? Yes. So he's very well regarded in the region and super well known, right?
So imagine if something fantastic like this is happening and then these beings are taken there. I think the main person to deal with the situation would be him, either the main one or one of the main ones. So why would he limit himself to just watching a video or a photo, a video? I think that since that time, it never really made sense to me. So when he decided to talk, now that he said he was there, I actually found it more plausible that he had really been there in person and done the procedure with the being. Now, that's just something I think, okay, that it's much more plausible. But there's also the other side. The possibility that he really only saw a video just briefly, and with all this hype, with this thing from James Fox doing the...
Part 2, right?
Part 2 of Moment of Contact. Obviously, that would be a big promotion, right? A major development to promote the documentary. So, I mean, then...
So to promote the documentary, okay, but like what would he gain from that, right? He's already late in life, basically, about to retire, right? He's already done more than 5,000 surgeries, right? They're in Virginia. I mean, a guy like that, why would he put himself out there at the end of his life, right? He said what motivated him was that he started to reflect in the ICU, right? He had a health problem there. He had prostate cancer and even had a heart attack, according to what Marco Aurelio Leal mentioned. So maybe that motivation is what led him to reflect on what he actually saw. And then he wanted to reshape his testimony. And he says something in his testimony to James Fox also because of his grandchildren, right? In other words, as a grandfather, maybe in the future, if the truth about the Varginha case comes out, they would find out that he had this interaction. Then the grandchildren would say, my grandfather lied. So maybe that's the issue, right? He must have thought about that too. It was one of the reasons why he decided to come forward now. I don't think he's told everything yet. And I think he has more to say, right? But, you know, when he gave that statement back then, I knew it wasn't the whole truth. It seemed like a half truth. Then he used that chess game thing, right? To kind of encapsulate, let's say, the story, right? Or to make it more enigmatic, right? Because you have those chess moves there. he ended up making, I don't know if you saw that article, right? Where he talks as if it was something fictional, but he puts fiction in quotes. In other words, if it's fiction in quotes, it's fact. Yeah. And then he brings details that he's revealing now, but back in 2023, he wrote it as a fictional text for a channel there for a chess player's website, right? I think that's what you call the guys who play chess, right? And then he wrote this text there, kind of enigmatic, right? But actually, it brings, and there he talks about three creatures, right? Not just one, then. He, as an important person at the hospital, he definitely knows. He knows exactly how many creatures went through the hospital. And we know it wasn't just one.
Yeah. So Edison Boaventura, I agree, like what I think, right? Speaking for myself, Cristiano, that's exactly what I think too. What I think. But we, as researchers, right, as ufologists, we have to present all the possibilities, right? I always do that. So this possibility of promoting the event and all, that he made some money, because James Fox is not poor at all. So it exists, right? It's one of the possibilities. Now, what Cristiano thinks, what I think, is exactly what you said. I think that it's very unlikely that an episode of this magnitude wouldn't go through him personally. He would be the one to handle it.
I was in Rio, in Barra da Tijuca, at an event. Then I met the wife of a military man as well, since his whole family is military and all. And there were two people she mentioned to me. There are two doctors from Varginha. One has already passed away and the other is still alive. And that they supposedly had contact with this creature. Probably Dr. Ítalo Venturelli, since he mentioned several doctors, it could even be one of those doctors he mentioned, right? But their names were not disclosed. So I believe that since he spoke out, it will be easier for us to get statements from other doctors. In other words, that they are encouraged by Dr. Ítalo Venturelli's statement to also come forward and add more to this story about the Varginha creature. I think there's a good chance this will happen from now on.
That would be great, huh? It would be great. And I think that's how it is. A lot of people talk to me, ask me about the Magé case, right? But guys, it's not that we don't want to. It's just that things take time to happen. Look at Varginha. So many years, things are coming up only now. Magé was just recently in 2020.
29 years. Look how long it's been.
And things are coming up now. Magé was just recently in 2020, and I'm on top of it. I'm still working things out. There are many things that don't depend only on me. There are some things I already know, but I can't bring them up yet, especially because I still lack a bit of solid information. I'm going to wait until I have that solidity. So to avoid just talking nonsense, I keep researching. I go slowly. I gather the pieces of the puzzle so that when I bring it up, I can present something well-founded. I believe so then.
Magé was real. It was something that happened there. It was real.
It was very real and on the same scale as Varginha, okay? It was really mind-blowing. That's just how it is.
It's like for you there in Rio de Janeiro, it's easier, right? You could get to Magé and follow the whole story. It's like me, for example, in Varginha. Today, I can say that I'm convinced about that case because I was involved in it. I talked to people, looked them in the eye, talked to military personnel, right, with civilians. So we have that conviction because we were there. It's like Cláudio. I've been following Cláudio for many years. We've only now decided to talk a little more about Cláudio, but we already knew a lot. That's why when I say the Cláudio case will surpass the Varginha case, I'm not being modest because I know there are details and characteristics of the Cláudio case that far surpass the Varginha case. The Varginha case doesn't have any released documents, while the Cláudio case already does, And there are even missing documents, a lot that haven't been released, right? If they were released, it would be an avalanche, right? It would be a cataclysm, a mega atomic bomb exploding. But unfortunately, we have to be ethical. We have to be sensible in order to release this little by little. It's just like the Magé case, right? You have to go little by little. And then as you confirm certain information, you can share it with the public, right? That's why I say, guys, be patient. We'll bring it to you carefully for sure. Just throwing something out there for views. We leave that to other guys out there on the internet. You know, those channels that are all about being immediate, right? So the ones who rush end up, it's that old saying, haste makes waste, right? So we don't want to rush things.
And it ends up trivializing the case. The guy just throws it out there any way he wants, and he ends up trivializing a case that has enormous potential. The guy does it like that. It's even sad. Now, this case, Cláudio Edison Boaventura, I'm still going to take a course about this case with you, okay?
There's a playlist on our channel about Cláudio.